I'm Joyce and welcome to GypsyFelting. Today we're going to take this pile of fluff right here and we're going to make a gnome home like this. And this is a good project for somebody who's a beginner or a little bit advanced. I'm going to use some simple tools. I have a single needle, a double needle, and a multi-tool. And of course my needle felting foam, which you work upon. And we're going to learn how to landscape our little gnome home. We're going to learn how to attach some toadstools or mushrooms to our gnome home, and this will be a lot of fun. Okay, so we're going to make our core shape for our gnome home. So what we want is we want a little hill and we want a little yard right here. So we have the little front yard and we have the little hill. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our core foam or wool batting, which is what we have right here. And you just want to kind of roughly roll it into a nice little cylinder or kind of a little pile right here. And then we're going to start to needle felt it. So you just kind of tuck in the edges, roll it up, not quite as tightly as possible because we are going to put layers over this, but we're going to start working it. Now you can use a single needle to work this, just do deep inner jabs like this all over, or you can use a double needle, which is what I prefer to use. Also the same thing is you're going to move it all around and keep going until it is kind of tightly together and will not unwind. You can also use a multi-tool, and our multi-tool will come in handy when we are making our yard. So the more that you kind of keep rolling this around and keep working it all over, turn it over, the more compressed it will get. And what you're working on is you're trying to get somewhere between like really firm, which is, this is a really firm surface, and kind of just semi-firm. So you want this to be kind of halfway between kind of loose the way you started with the wool and then really firm. This is what your core shape will roughly look like. We kind of made a little flattened area on the bottom, and then now we have the top is nicely rounded. So in order to, this is what I call the hill. You can make these in different shapes if you wanted. You could do it larger, or you could do them in a different shape. You could have like two little humps or whatever, but this is a nice little starting shape for our gnome home project. Now to do the yard, we're going to take some of the core wool, and here all you need to do is work a flat surface. So we're going to kind of spread it out, and this you could also shape if you wanted it to be kind of more like landscaped shape and kind of something a little bit more organic. So take your multi-tool and simply needle felt the surface all over the top. So you can kind of do this, you'll hear it go into your sponge. Now here you want to pick it up and turn it over so that you don't needle felt it down into the base of your sponge, which is a possibility. So just keep working it back and forth all over. Some people have another tool, which is this clover tool. And they have this, the brush and this multi-tool, and you can also use this if you prefer this. So this is the same thing, it's just two different ways of doing it. Some people like to do flat things more on the brush, and then if you don't have it, then you can use the other one. So what you want to end up with at the end of your yard is something that's a little bit organic and a little bit just really flat kind of a shape. You can also shape it with scissors if you decide that you want a little bit more of a cutout. You can always kind of cut it out like that. And we don't have to worry that this is just a plain color because we're going to, of course, cover it later. So to attach the hill and the yard together, you simply kind of decide how far you want your yard to stick out. I don't want mine to stick out too far on this one, so I'm going to kind of put most of the hillside on here. And then you're simply going to go around the perimeter of your hill and poke the hillside into the yard. You can also turn it over and do it from the other side. So now we have the basic beginning of our gnome home. You can see how these are very similar in shape. And then now we're going to get started landscaping or covering our gnome home. Okay, so we have our core shape now for our gnome home and we're ready to cover it. I have some of these beautiful little poofs and fluffiness of wonderful carded greens and browns so that we can cover our gnome home. There's actually a reference video, if you follow this link over here, to make your own little carded bats and things for your gnome home. So what you want to do is you want to peel off whatever looks most attractive to you and kind of just take a little bit of a thin layer. You're going to put it down over your gnome home. We're going to leave kind of an exposed face so that we can put the door and window over here and in the yard. So what we're going to do is take your needle and just kind of gently poke the greens and landscaping stuff into the core. And of course, we can speed this part right along. Okay, so when you want to do the yard, you do the same thing with the browns. And you just spread a thin layer of your brown, and what you want to do is cover so that you do not see any of the core shape or the color, the vanilla color of the plain wool under here. You can use a single needle if that's what you have, because of course you can always do everything you can do with the multi-needle, you can do with the single needle. It just takes a little bit longer. Or you can use a double needle, or you can use a multi-needle. It just makes things go a little bit faster. Don't forget to pull your wool, your project up from your sponge, because I almost got stuck in there. You can also cover this part if you like. Nobody's going to see that part necessarily, but it does make it look finished if you have it covered. I like to use like a earthy brown color for that. So once you've covered your gnome home in the various greens and browns, then we can move on to planting things in it and making it look really pretty. Okay, so we've come to my favorite part of making a gnome home, and that's the landscaping portion of it. So we have our gnome home, and we've covered the yard and the hill. And what we're going to do is we're going to add little elements like little bushes and little rocks, little mushrooms, and we're going to give it some really nice whimsical and charm in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some locks and make a little bush or a little plant. And these are really tiny little Wensleydale locks, and they're really, really pretty and cute. And you just take them and kind of pinch them in the middle. And I like 3. 3 is usually a good number. If you want a longer little plant, you can do them at the end, or you can do them in the middle. So just take them, pinch them in the middle, and we're going to poke this end into our yard. I think we'll give them, plant them right over here. So just kneel them into the yard. You can even take a tiny bit of brown and do that over them so that they're very, very secure. If you don't feel like you're getting them secure enough just poking the locks themselves, just kind of put some dirt around them. And we're literally going to plant them into the gnome home. So just kind of take them, spread them out so that the locks stand up, and now you have a cute little plant right there. You can also do a plant in a different way by taking some yarn. It doesn't have to be wool yarn, though it does kind of help with the needle felting. You can actually needle felt acrylic yarn. Just cut some little bit of lengths, and you have some vines or different things right now. And I'm going to want these kind of long, so I'm going to do these from the end. I've got 4. I think I need 1 more. So I'll take this one, and we're going to make it kind of so it matches this one over here. So we're going to plant this one, maybe, let's see, we'll plant it right up here. So just kind of poke the end into the green of the hillside. You can give it a little bit of a swirl and a poke. Your single needle is great for this. There we go. And now I have a couple of little plants decorating my hillside. So another thing we can do is we can attach a nice little mushroom. And in order to learn how to make this mushroom, reference this video right there. And it'll show you all about making toadstools and mushrooms. So we're gonna take the end, and you can see the end is a little bit brushy, and we're gonna plant it. Just poke and attach. You can also use your extra greens to help you plant your mushroom. Put them against the base, and then needle felt everything down. You can use a smaller mushroom on the side to kind of look like a little chimney. So now let's make some rocks with this pretty gray roving. I've got a couple of little rocks started right here. If you make them in different sizes, they tend to look even cuter, like you're making a little rock path. So just give it a little bit of a swirl and a poke. Swirl and poke. You can make your rocks as big or as tiny as you want them. You go from the outside and try not to poke in the middle because that flattens your rock. So now we have some eyelash yarn. This is some really pretty kind of microfiber eyelashy yarn, and I'm going to make kind of a little ridge right here like it looks like vines are growing up. Wherever you put the yarn down, simply follow along with your needle and just poke the little ends of the yarn into the landscape. You can double it back, or you can kind of zigzag it. The zigzagging is pretty cool because then it looks very natural and organic. Like it's grown there, which is what we want for it to look like. Finally, what you're going to want to do is make a little path so that we can have a path to our door. I've got some light brown roving wool, and I'm going to kind of spread it out a little bit, put it against our dark brown of our yard, maybe zigzag it or give it a little bit of a twist here, and then needle felt it into place. Since we know our door is going to go somewhere over here, it'll give us a good place to kind of put our door there. I'm using the single needle for all this, but you could easily use a double needle if you so desired to use a double needle. You could also add some more landscaping. I'm going to put a little bush right there in the little bend of the path. So we're well on our way to making the landscape of our gnome home. So we have our landscaped gnome home, and right now we're going to attach windows or inset our windows and doors into our landscape. So you take a little bit of yellow, and you can either make your windows dark windows or you can make them light windows. What I mean by that is, do you want light looking like it shines out from the inside, or do you want it to look like nobody's home and make them dark? If you're going to make them dark, use a dark background and a light frame. If you're going to make them bright, use a light background and a dark frame. Okay, so we're going to make light windows. So just take a little tiny wisp of yellow roving or wool, kind of get it so you can maneuver. It's okay if you feel like you're manhandling your gnome home a little bit, that's allowed. And we're going to put this into a little bit of a circle. I'm using my single needle and just kind of doubling over the roving or the little bit of wool. It's so small, it's not really even roving. So, and just kind of make a little circle. You can needle felt it all the way around the edge and across the center so that it's flat and a little bit depressed into the surface of the gnome home. If it's not perfectly circular, that's okay, because right now we're going to give it a little bit of a frame. So now take a bit of black or really dark brown. You could even use a tiny bit of dark yarn if you felt like you couldn't get it really straight, but you want to just anchor it at one end and then stretch it across. Pull it or trim it off. And go back again with a little bit of an excess. And then we're going to give it the vertical. That was the horizontal bar. We're going to do the vertical bar. And if you feel like it needs a little bit, it's not quite thick enough, you can always add just a tiny bit more. You could even do these in a different color. If you didn't like the black, you could do them in red or brown or whatever you would like. It'll show up really nice as long as it's a dark color on light or a light color on dark. So now we're going to frame our window, and I think I'm going to use a tiny bit of this eyelash yarn right here so it looks like I have vines growing around my window. So just take the yarn or the wool, because you could do this with wool as well, and then just frame your window. Go all the way around, poking the wool into the window. You can overlap it a tiny bit. It really won't hurt anything, because now this looks like I have a little vine covered window. And we have a nice little path leading to our door now. So now we're going to make the door. And I want everybody to be able to see the door, so I'm going to do this door in red. And it's the same principle with the window, is that you want to make it kind of a round or in a half circle or a little bit of a square. So I just folded my little bit of wool, and now I am going to inset my door. If you find that your path doesn't quite line up, you can kind of pull up your path and move it so that it does. This part we can speed right along. So once you have your door going on, you can do different things with it. Like here's a round door with the doorknob in the center, and I also framed it with stones. You can also inset windows into your gnome home. Like here's a window that's inset in the back of it. Here I added some little leaf shutters, and I have a dark window. So it's got a little red frame and a dark window. So you can do a lot of different things with your doors and windows. So thanks for creating a gnome home with me today. These are some of the gnome homes I've created, and I have one this is just a toadstool hill. It's a little plain toadstool, or a plain little pincushion hill. This one is a really elaborate gnome home. It's got an open door, and it's got its own little pool and a little escape hatch over here, which I think is really cute. It's kind of in a fall foliage kind of variety. And then this one is a really pretty little springtime one with lots of different features. It's got, it's kind of on its own little island, and I think it's really fun. So enjoy. Thanks for watching GypsyFelting. If you have any questions, please enter them in the comments below. And don't forget to follow along for more adventures in needle felting, subscribe to this channel, and visit my Etsy store for supplies and kits for the projects featured here. Thank you.